Woodman here. In my last video, I talked about what was a really shocking bad breakup, right? That soul crushing feeling of being let down, being betrayed, at a time when you feel like, someone's kicking you down low. But as they always say, pain is relative to time and place, and all things shall pass. We learn to heal, we learn not to stagnate, we learn to love ourselves, and no matter what, keep moving forward. It does make us a bit cautious, but that doesn't mean we should give up on love. Love is always out there. And I'm quite happy to have met many people in my life, for better or for worse. And I think that my experience of late has been more that I've met quite a few good people. I've met a lot of positive partners. And I owe it in part to kind of going about things a different way now. Instead of going into things with this sort of rigid societal expectation, um, I just approach things with common sense and rationality. I take things slow as it should be, because it is with time we learn better who is truly for us. So take your time. Don't feel rushed. Don't feel like you have to do anything like, oh my God, we have to get to the next stage. We have to do this. We have to do that. Just take it easy. Have fun. Enjoy. You're going to meet a lot of soulmates in your life, people from your soul tribe. Sometimes we can be happy if we just learn how to get out of our own damn way. You heard me. I'll repeat it again. Learn how to get out of our own way. Just let be, let go, let God, right? And so, whatever past dysfunctional relationship I might have had, whether I chalk it up to poor judgment, whether it was just a lot of trauma, whether I was just an unbalanced person, it was an experience and it was what it was. We have to be wary not to fall prey to trauma bonding, because that can be a sort of Stockholm Syndrome, which talks about a psychological thing where individuals will form strong emotional attachments to people who may cause them harm or abuse. It's very easy to fall into that kind of pattern. These types of bonds can develop in all kinds of relationships, including romantic partnerships, casual acquaintances, friendships, workplace situations, and just situations that are outright abusive, that are probably criminal and illegal. So here's some key characteristics to when you find yourself in a trauma bonding situation. One tactic abusers like to use is intermittent reinforcement. The abuser alternates between periods of kindness or affection and periods of abuse or neglect. This is like love bombing with narcissists. This creates this confusion, but also a sense of dependence, where you're waiting for the abuse to end and you're now looking for validation and for the good times to return again. Abusers use isolation tactics. This is where they get you away from your friends, your family, your support system, and they make you more reliant on the abuser, and then you come to depend on them for your emotional and psychological needs. Um, Survival instincts. In true situations where you're really kind of almost being held captive or being abused, trauma bonding can be a situation. I had a niece who unfortunately passed away from a domestic violence incident, and it still saddens me to this day. And what you find is that sometimes, even though a person is really being abused, even though the situation is criminal, maybe out of a sense of survival, they want to make it work. Maybe they try to imagine that things are okay with this abuser. Guilt and shame. Sometimes people blame themselves. Sometimes they say, you know what, yeah, they're abusing me, but I really haven't done what I'm supposed to do, and I make a lot of mistakes, and I'm not good enough. Maybe if I get better, the abuse will stop, and that's a terrible thing to think. Fear of rejection or abandonment. Some victims themselves may have abandonment issues, and so they may feel like if they try to leave the relationship, that the abuser is going to retaliate by cutting them off, and then now they're going to be lonely again, and maybe they won't be able to find somebody else. And so it's out of a twisted sense of self-preservation, the victim now becomes dependent on the abuser. Low self-esteem. Some victims of trauma bonding have low self-esteem, that they don't think they can do better. They don't think they deserve better. They don't think they deserve to be treated better. And this becomes a cycle of abuse that gets cyclically reinforced over and over and over again. Emotional dependence. trauma bonding can also cause victims to experience a strong emotional dependence on the abuser. Again, you have that love bombing, you have these different tactics, and so the abused become hooked on the abuser. And even though they can kind of sense the harm that's being caused, they still don't know how to break free from it. They're addicted to it. It's almost like a drug. And breaking free from trauma bonding can really be challenging, and it often requires a lot of professional support, such as therapy, counseling, mental health treatment, support groups. It involves the ability to recognize the unhealthy dynamics of the situation, of the relationship, and for the victim to build self esteem and self worth, and to understand what healthy boundaries are truly about, and to seek alternative sources of validation and support, coming away from that codependent situation on the abuser. And for this reason, a lot of bad relationships are really not twin flame relationships, right? In spirituality, because everybody's always obsessed with twin flame, twin flame. That doesn't make every abusive relationship twin flame. In fact, it really shouldn't be twin flame at all. True twin flame relationships should have these periods of intensity and deepening spiritual bonds, but don't mistake these periods of really being in a bad situation where your emotions run high as to be some sign of a twin flame relationship, because it's more spiritual than it is either physical or psychological. It's really when two souls are resonating with each other, even if they may argue with each other. Purpose and growth. Sometimes it's a catalyst, right, for growth. Sometimes uh, it triggers personal growth. It triggers spiritual evolution. It triggers some sort of even form of mutual support in fulfilling life missions. Maybe the two souls agreed that certain events should happen, and they're just playing out those events. And as terrible as they might be, that other person's keeping up their end of the bargain. They were supposed to trigger you to transform, and they're doing exactly that, even though you may be confused. But that's not abuse. That's something different. Mutual understanding. In a twin flame connection, there's often a profound sense of mutual understanding, acceptance, and unconditional love. Right? This is not the kind of love where you behave a certain way towards the abuser and they give you what you want. There is at least some sense that both souls genuinely love each other, and even where communication may be lacking, there's still this outpouring of love and support, even in spirit, even through the ethers, in the 5D. Spiritual awakening. Twin flame relationships often help spark spiritual awakening, and that will begin the journey of profound inner transformation. Bad relationships can prompt personal growth, but that doesn't make them a spiritual union. The transformative power of a twin flame connection is often on a much different level, a much more spiritual level, a much more unseen level. And people confront their deep seated issues and they become better and evolve on a spiritual standpoint. Synchronicity and signs. This is truly something that helps separate twin flame relationships from abusive relationships, because if you're always seeing a lot of synchronicity, signs, and a sense of divine timing, that's all there for a reason. That's there to communicate to you that the universe is telling you that this is a special connection and that there's significance here, and that with faith and trust, you're going to have to rely on trusting in things you cannot see in the physical 3D realm. So bad relationships can certainly be triggering, intense, and challenging, and they're going to lack the depth, purpose, and spiritual connection that comes with most twin flame relationships. So it's kind of hard to tell the difference between the two. You've got to really kind of know and be up to snuff to learn that, okay, well, and if anything, we should have healthy boundaries. With anything, we should not be causing massive harm to one another. It should be a point where, yes, you're learning, you're growing, you're adapting. Yes, traumatic things might happen, but it's not the whole purpose of the bond. So if everything's just about trauma bonding, that's not a spiritual union. A spiritual union has so much more things going on than that, and you have to be very astute to kind of recognize the difference. As you're navigating this kind of process, once you realize you are in a twin flame union, then at that point you have to have some sense of acceptance. Acceptance that, yes, you know, it's a tough situation, but you do have to acknowledge the reality of the situation. You do have to also set boundaries, whether or not you think you're both truly meant for one another. You still should have healthy boundaries no matter what. And that's crucial for your emotional well-being, even if it involves limiting contact, even if it involves unfollowing people on social media, even if it involves taking a break from activities or places that remind you of the other person. You should also take time for self-reflection. No one is 100% to blame in a true twin flame relationship. Each has their own baggage, each has their own issues. And so each has to take accountability for what they did wrong in the relationship. And that's going to teach you something about yourselves. It's going to teach you something about your desires and what the best and higher version of yourself should look like and how you go forward to try to achieve that. You must also redirect your energy towards yourself. Self care and personal development are key. You want to engage in activities that bring you joy. You want to pursue your hobbies. You want to spend time with your supportive friends and family and prioritize your mental and physical health. Don't become so obsessed with what you're going through that you neglect yourself. And then you also really have to take it easy on yourself. Forgive yourself. Practice forgiveness for both you and for your twin flame. Holding on to anger or resentment is just going to prolong the healing process. Remember that forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, allowing you to release negative emotions and move forward. And we're all going through that, and I go through it every day. I'm not perfect either, and I have to constantly remind myself of these things. Learning to let go. Sometimes you have to understand that letting go doesn't mean forgetting or denying the connection that was shared. It just means releasing attachment to the outcome and trusting that whatever is meant to be will be, and it will unfold in divine timing, which is its own time. We cannot force situations to prematurely occur before it is time. The universe only truly knows when things are supposed to be. So embrace the present moment and focus on creating a fulfilling life for yourself, independent of whatever connection you feel you have, whether it's a twin flame or not, or a soulmate or not. Open yourself up to new experiences and new connections. Don't become bitter. Don't become obsessed. Go forward. Keep moving forward. Seek support. Don't forget to rely on your friends. Don't forget to rely on trusted friends, your family members, your therapist, your physician, anyone who can understand, listen to your story, and offer you guidance. And that will be helpful to you during this process because it's so easy to get lost. And you have to remember that healing takes time, even in a twin flame connection. And it's okay to give yourself the space and the grace to navigate your emotions at your own pace. You have to trust in the journey of healing and growth and just trust the universe that whatever is going to be will be. And you are always deserving of love and happiness, both within a twin flame connection and outside of the twin flame connection. The twin flame connection should not be your only source of happiness and the kind of life that you feel you should have. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, and that's okay. It's okay to just keep moving forward. You don't have to feel guilty for anything. You don't have to be torn up over anything. You just have to live. Because if you don't live and you're stuck in the past, you will never grow. You will never adapt. You will not fulfill your life's mission. You will not fulfill your soul's purpose. You will lose sight of everything. And everything that you came here to do will be lost. So stop worrying. Stop being traumatized. Keep healing. Love yourself. Forgive. Move forward. Woodman here. I hope this has been very helpful for you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I always appreciate your support of this channel. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. I love you. Take care. Bye.